All right, so today you know what, wait just a second. Don't go anywhere. I promise I'll be right back. Just wait. What did you do? Did you go on your phone? Did you wait patiently, curious of what would happen? Or did you skip the waiting time altogether and started watching from this chapter? Remember, I have analytics by my side, so I know what you did, or what most of you did. But yeah, what kind of waiter are you? I can't be yet another one of those people who tells you, live more slowly, appreciate every single moment to stop and smell the roses, and all that very, very flowery, fun stuff. This advice can be valid and valuable, and I'm not discrediting it in any way. But so many people have already said it that I'm trying to take a different approach. Some of my questions are, how can we approach slowness from a different standpoint? Can we enter it through the back door? And this may sound obvious, but the very first thing that came to mind was the idea of patience. So I did what I tend to do when I check the dictionary. And my favorite definition of patience was calm, self-possessed waiting. I'm really hoping you don't hear this, but I guess you'll have to wait. Normally I would cut it out. But this is about waiting, because I would just wait until it gets quiet. Please just shut up. And that made me wonder, did we, in the chaos of things, forget how to wait? And lots of advice on how to be productive. People always say to use the waiting time you have. I think it is very valid, but we should also ask, why do we want to avoid waiting so much? For example, I really don't like small talk. And yet it seems to be the default among many people. It seems as though 90%, or am I too harsh, of social interaction is about waiting until a real connection begins to shine through. Or maybe let's look at it the other way around. Maybe instead of waiting for something more substantial to bloom, we jump into small talk on automatic because we're afraid of the silence, afraid of waiting to catch that spark. So what is the value of this waiting? Is it at all possible that something substantial can grow out of waiting and not just out of the thing we wait for? Can value grow out of waiting? Or do we eventually get bored of waiting? Is that why building a connection seems so difficult these days? Because so much of it is based on waiting, and waiting is unappealing, boring. Even while making my videos here, I often cut many bits that are maybe considered rambling or redundant or too personal because I don't want people to get bored. Instead of making you wait and enjoy the video for what it might be more organically, I try to get to the point. That's what everyone says. Get to the point. Don't waste time on long introductions. Don't ramble. But here's the catch. We keep wanting to get to the point, but what is the point? When we turn to articles and videos on how to live more slowly, a lot of advice centers around making the time in your day for relaxing activity number 1 or insightful reflection number 2. But that suggests you still have to schedule slowness into an overall fast-paced life. Don't get me wrong, I think scheduling relaxation or slowness time can be valuable. But it's not enough because then we have yet another goal to reach. This time the goal being relaxation time. But waiting doesn't seem to have a goal. Waiting itself seems separated from the goal. It's just something we must endure. And that can be liberating in its limitations and frustrations and seeming inconveniences. Are you still waiting? Did you already get bored of this video? It's a good thing about waiting. You're waiting. You can be silent. You can just sit around and wait and fix your hair and curse at the drilling outside or people talking at the corridor. I might do that. But then the video might be too long. And then people won't watch it because they just want to get to the point. Okay, I'll get to the point now. I'm getting to the point. Right. Everything seems to be a trade these days. We multitask, so we give away our attention to get more results faster. Or we often trade the depth of our personalities in order to interact with another person more quickly. On the other hand, when we wait, all we trade is time. Now, we always trade time, but we usually seem to trade time with an extra of something else. But if time is the only thing that we trade without something added to it, then it doesn't seem worth it. Because what else do we trade besides time when we just sit in the waiting room? So we seem to trade patience for faster results. But what happens if we stop giving our patience away? If we keep it, if we learn to wait, what are the benefits of waiting? Our natural state is the one of waiting. Waiting is the universal human condition because all we do is wait. Without an end, that is death, there wouldn't be waiting. So all life is about waiting. And about people drilling outside of my window, apparently, too. So maybe if we learn how to wait properly and patiently and gracefully in the small moments of life, that can actually be the greatest life lesson of all. Because learning small waiting means you practice for the big waiting, which is life itself. When someone's in danger or about to do something stupid, we often scream, wait, as if waiting also served as protection. Because if we didn't give ourselves some time to wait before doing something or saying something, then we always run a greater risk of later regretting it. A nice metaphor for this could be traffic lights. Many people pass at a red light and have a higher risk of injury because of it. And this analogy shows us the link between waiting and slowness, which is actually the origin of the idea for this video. If we hurry too much, if we want to do too much in a short amount of time, and if we disregard the waiting time, the red light, this can be dangerous, because waiting can actually be safer. It can protect you from harm or even from yourself. Waiting can also give us insight. We never manage to get really inspired if we don't give ourselves the time to wait. And inspiration links to reflection. Everyone always says to give yourself some time to reflect after learning something new. But what about reflecting before? Isn't waiting also a time for pre-reflecting? Of course, we treat waiting differently depending on what we're waiting for. If I'm at a dentist appointment, I'm very stressed, I'm most likely shaking, and I can't do anything. But if I'm waiting for a class, I'm more likely to do something in that few minute gap, or 20-minute gap if you're like me, chronically early. Sometimes we're already in the mindset of the future, of the thing happening, for example in the dentist scenario. Other times we're in the knower mindset, trying to fill up our minds, for example, while waiting on a class. But maybe instead of either of those, we could see waiting for what it is, exposure. Waiting exposes our future, our habits, our fears. It exposes our timeness. It forces us to be out of life, though in reality it is life itself, and wait for our turn to start doing something. But our turn never comes because everything we do is an act of waiting for another thing. And if you're in that waiting space and you do something to fill it up mindlessly, wouldn't it be in some way detrimental to you then? Because then you yet again decide to avoid this exposure that communicates the universality of waiting to you, and you can't escape that. Now, I'm not saying here that you should always wait for life to start. I know that it's a thing people often say, that I have to go to college and then life will start. I have to do this and then I'll start. I have to wait until this thing starts for me to start living. And that's not what I'm talking about, because I do believe in action. I even talked about that in my video on not relying on the future too much. What I am saying is that living is waiting in itself. Whatever we do, we wait. We should all be professional waiters because it's what we need to succeed in life. And living is the ultimate waiting. And how do we practice waiting? Well, we notice it. We become conscious of how we wait. In both the journey and the destination, waiting always comes to the surface, reminding us of itself. And all the waiting that you do, can you do it better? From this perspective, the meaning of glass half full and half empty reverses. We should keep our glasses half empty to make room for the waiting. In a piece I once read, there was this phrase of an aesthetic of slowness. When I tried to research it, I couldn't find many details of it, but what I did find is a book by Lutz Kopnick on slowness towards the aesthetic of the contemporary. Now, I haven't read the book, but in its description it says, slowness can act as a critical medium to intensify our temporal and spatial experiences, which helps us register multiple layers, time, history, and motion. So I began to think, what about the aesthetics not of slowness, but of waiting? In my video about desire, I talked about the desire narrative. But isn't every desire narrative also the one of waiting? Even in paintings that are conveniently static, for example in Edward Hopper's paintings, which are usually interpreted as depicting solitude. But what I see in them is this merging of stillness and tension. And it seems like a good portrayal of waiting. Always on, always active, yet subtle, surrendering to waiting. And if we try to incorporate this aesthetic of waiting into our own lives, we can look at the art of waiting in a different, more nuanced way. We can understand and appreciate our waiting more. We can become more patient, more still. We can notice the beauty in waiting. And that obviously relates to slowness. And it's not just about turning our lives slower to stop and smell the roses and not to lose ourselves in the fast-paced world. Though obviously it is about that too. But it's also about facing the inescapable condition we're in. A condition that is slow and ongoing. The constant, almost never-ending waiting. Now, before you go, I invite you to wait. I'll leave this place for a while, and go off to my own figurative waiting nook, and I invite you to do the same. Whether you do this or not, well, the truth lies in the analytics. So I'll see you later. Did you wait? Did you not? Were you in too much of a rush, or did you get bored? Maybe you're not even watching this right now because you abandoned the video altogether, which is fine. But if you did not, or even if you just forwarded the video to this moment, thank you for sticking with me. If you're interested in regularly waiting for future videos of mine, consider subscribing to my channel and liking or sharing the video if you want. Thank you for your time.